Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone. This is Fade to Black. How you doing? Today is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. Let's do this, man. Yeah. Tonight, well, right now, I would normally say help support the show and all of our hard work here. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. But we're going to be talking about that tonight because our guest is Michael Oeming. That's right. And on the banner that we created for the show, I think it says the world's greatest comic artist. And that could almost be a stand-up a comedian. But I took the liberty to say that because I truly mean it. He is one of the great comic book artists in the world. And I can say greatest. He can't. Well, maybe he does when he's alone. But he can't say that, but I can. He is absolutely amazing. And tonight we're going to talk about the new T-shirt design that he did for us here at Fade to Black. And the ideas behind that. We're not going to do a full show of the Fade to Black t-shirt. We're going to be talking about his Project Bluebook release and Project Monarch, a satire about conspiracy theories that is put out by Dark Horse Comics. And that is available for pre-order right now and on sale October 17th from Dark Horse. He is the Eisner, Harvey and Eagle award-winning co-creator and artist of Powers. That was also a TV series, and he was the executive producer on that. And that was from Sony PlayStation. And that ran for 2 seasons. He has drawn, are you ready? He has drawn Thor Ragnarok. He has drawn Red Sonja, Batman, Superman, Dick Tracy, but is best known for his career-owned works such as The Victories, Mice Templar, one of my favorite, Takio, United States of Murder, Inc., and many others. And with his partners, mostly with his partners, Brian Bendis, and of course his wife, Taki Soma. Taki Soma. Michael helped develop comics for Left 4 Dead, Portal, Team Fortress, and his art can be seen on the covers for comics in are you ready for us? The Last of Us, the TV series. I'm actually going to start there tonight with Michael Oeming. And I also want to give a big shout out to James Tynion, the fourth. For his work on Project Bluebook. And I want to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only, the Michael Avon Oeming. There he is right there, everybody. And you got to have the Avon in there, brother. I mean, there's so many Michael Oeming comic book artists that are out there. You got to have you got to Avon.
I need to hire you as my hype man because I was very calm before all that started, and I feel like I've got a lot of BS to live up to now.
Well, I've got a lot of Oeming art, and thank you for all of my house is adorned with the Oeming stuff, and we have your stuff as our backdrop for the banners, and everybody my face that is throughout social media. That's Michael. Michael drew that. And he drew that especially for social media, actually, too, as well, which was a pretty cool thing. So, but do you always sign everything Avon?
Yeah, I began that because, even though there's not a lot of Michael Oemings running around, my last name wasn't memorable when I was starting out in any way. And also, I always just signed my art like I signed a check, and it just looked weird. And then I finally embraced that's my legal name. My legal middle name is Avon, a name that I hid from for many years because of all the teasing, right?
Right, of course.
And then as I got older, I saw this British sci-fi show called Blake 7, and one of the coolest badass characters ever was named Avon in there, and I was like, that's it. I'm using Avon, and that's where that came from.
Wow.
Marketing.
Okay. I can imagine kids are rough, right? So you have the middle name Avon growing up. Nah.
Just Avon calling joke. It's not even that it was bad. It was so expected. It was more that. It was like, I wasn't even offended by it. I was just like, just think of something better.
And so amongst other things, and we've got a lot to chat about tonight, but so I'm watching The Last of Us, and I, like the rest of America and the world, addicted to that show. It's right. I mean, top shelf. I can't wait for season 2 and see where this is going. Tearjerker, heartbreaking show, terrifying show. There were moments of brevity and comedy too as well, and it shot so well. And we've all seen, apocalyptic, zombie. It wasn't that. It was a story about relationships. Yeah. And what I found in going through the series, leading up to what I'm about to mention, all the main characters die. Right? Everybody died, right? And it was like, oh man, there were moments where, because you were so, the character development was so taken to another level, right, on that show, and you're getting into it, and the next thing you know,
it's like Game of Thrones, It's just
it was like Game of Thrones, a lot like that. And so there's this scene. She's in bed. I think she was in bed, and or in her room, and she picks up a comic book, right, and starts thumbing through it. I went, whoa, stop! What? Rewind, right? Pause. That's frigging Oeming. and now, how did you know about this?
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't know until it aired. So back in about 2014, after I worked at this video game company called Valve, and we did Team Fortress and Left 4 Dead comics, and we had published some of that with Dark Horse Comics. I guess Naughty Dog was working on Left 4 Dead, and they reached out to Dark Horse looking for an artist. So my name came up, I guess, because of my history. And they needed these comic book Easter eggs that were going to be in the game, that the characters, just like in the show, they'll find them as they're rifling through stuff. So I got to do like 13 or 14 different covers. They're all in the game, and I got credit and paid and all that stuff. And it was really fun. It was really cool. And then years later, here we are watching the show, and I start getting these texts like, I think your art's in the game. And like, I didn't know it was going to happen or anything. So it was this really, really cool surprise. And yeah, I freaking love the show. It's so good. It's so character-based. So to have my work there just associated in some way, it's a real honor. It's one of those really super neat things.
Wait. Pump the brakes. You're saying you didn't know until it aired. So you're watching the show as a fan.
Yeah.
And you got hit with that.
Yeah, because
did tell me the truth. Did you pee on yourself just a little bit?
Definitely. A lot.
You did.
I mean, I had to get towels and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and the game is just like the show. Like, it's so good. It's the first video game that I cared about the story, where I was watching it. I was just watching Taki play, and I was like, I found myself just getting sucked into the story. And then for them to make the show and to have, to be a very small part of that feels really good, really good. It's really cool.
And I think you're holding back a little bit. I mean, I think I would lose my mind when you, here's a flip flop, right? Here's a dream within a dream. Same thing happened with me when you put me in your comics, right? You started drawing me on pages, and which has happened more than once, right? Yeah. And I carried those. I printed those. I carried them around. I showed them to everybody for months.
Well, I just did that out of appreciation. I do that a lot with, I spend so many hours throughout the day drawing comics and just quietly in my head as I'm making stuff. And your show for a very long time has kept me and Taki a lot of company while we're working. So it just felt natural, like I'll just throw these things in anyway.
Yeah, to have me blow up a building. Yeah, that comes natural.
And I've thrown you in a couple of places, and even where I don't throw you in, I've thrown the Fade to Black image, with like the skull that was, you had another artist do that, is really great. And I love that image. So I used with the skull with the pompadour. So I'll place those into books and stuff. And yeah, you're just kind of peppered throughout.
I'm referencing everybody. So Michael goes, man, you got to check these pages out. I said, okay. So he sends them to me. And the scene is this. It's a delivery company, okay, like FedEx, right? And the delivery person has got a Fade to Black T-shirt on and a Fade to Black hat. Right? I think that's right. Do I have that right? So you see the front and you see the back, and they're delivering this package. Then you see the front. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Then I get to the next cell, the next frame. It's a bomb. Delivering a bomb. And the room goes kapooey. But that was real. What was that in?
That was in Powers.
That was in Powers.
Yeah.
And then you know what my favorite was? You know what? You're my guest, and right now we're talking about me. I'm uncomfortable about it, but I got to tell you,
we all love Dick, you, man.
Dick Tracy, man. The Dick Tracy page, and which I have. I have the comic. I have the book itself, but I printed out a large version of the page, and the conversation. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something like, man, Dick Tracy's talking to his team. Man, you're listening to too much of that conspiracy radio stuff. You're listening to too much Fade to Black.
I'm continuing to drop you in. I mean, when Project Monarch comes out, you've got more than a couple pages in there.
Oh, is that right?
You had to be in there.
Yeah, oh, man, I love it. I love it. What okay. Let me do this first, because I brought up the Fade to Black T-shirt, and a lot of people haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is it. If you haven't seen the shirt, this is what Michael drew for the Fadernauts. And so can everybody see it? All right. So there it is. And it's, let me back it up. Let me see here. Okay. So it's so weird to do backwards and try to look at it at the same time, right? So there it is. And if you look really closely, it says Avon. It says Avon. I'm so proud of that. And so when...
Right where you can sign it, so the two of us can have our names right next to each
other. Everybody, when you get these autographed, they're going to be signed at the bottom of the mic stand, which is right here. They'll be signed right there. So I called Michael. I said, can you? He says, absolutely. All right. When do you need it? Yesterday. Okay, done. And so I sent Michael, I drew on this pad, I drew a little stick man, a stick man with a cape. That's all it was. It's just stick man with a cape. And I wrote Fade to Black over the top. And I take a picture of it. I text it to Michael, and he goes, perfect. Okay, this is all I need. That was it. And
we did really good art direction. Like I'm not the lettering sections of that. Like there's a whole art to just lettering and fonts and logos and stuff. Like on Project Bluebook, we have our letterers, Aditya Badaker, and he's amazing. It's not natural to me. So you actually were really great in helping me. You and Taki helped me figure out the font and logo stuff, because usually I use one font, which is Impact Bold, and I use it on everything, and I leave it at that. So you still got your artistic eye from back in your design days.
Yeah. You just
okay,
sure.
Together.
Well, you're right. Okay, and well, see, the thing is this: when you do that kind of exchange between friends, right? You need to tell me that it sucks, and you do, or I need to tell you that it sucks, and I did, right?
Yeah.
And I was so uncomfortable with that. I got to make this phone call. I got to call Mike, man. This.
You're a great communicator. You were never rude about it. You were straightforward about what was working for you and what didn't work and stuff. And
yeah.
we had a great time then.
So Michael did 5 different Jimmys. I think 5. Yeah. Am I right? Yeah, 5.
5 Jimmys.
So 5 different poses, 5 different things, 5 different positions, and they were all awesome. And it was like, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? We can't do them all. We're going to do one. And I think we all, which turned out to be this one right here, we all kind of landed on this. But to be honest with you, maybe we'll do a whole series. Maybe we'll just, go back and clean up the other ones
and finish those other sketches up just so we could use them.
Yeah. So that's me as a wannabe Superman. And Michael did so the microphone, that's a microphone stand like a saber. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Like what is a staff like Gandalf.
Yeah.
And it says official fate or not.
Yeah,
and that's hand drawn, man. And it is so good. I didn't realize that was that handsome.
I got to be me in it, which is I do a lot of like sort of high contrast art, and that it was a lot of fun, especially on black and white like that. It came together pretty nicely, I think, and a lot had to do with, again, your art direction. Well,
now when something like this, you're drawing for a client, right? And you know me, we are friends, right? You know me. How much of that is your perception of me, and how much of it actually looks like me? Because it doesn't, right?
No, that's a good question. Like, I don't do great likenesses, but what I do is I find certain features that sell the face. And luckily you have a very interesting face. You have like your eyebrows aren't like thick eyebrows, but you've got like bone structure around your eyebrows that very much will say who you are. And your hair is almost like it's like a condor. It's just like this beautiful creature living on top of your head. So it was it was very much that kind of thing. Like I try to capture what you feel like more than really specifics, like exactly the curvature of your nose or whatever, or the proportions of a face. Other people can do that, but especially because my stuff is cartoony, I just want to capture the feeling of something.
What is easier for you, the female form or the male form?
They're both equally fine. I don't. I'm 50. I've been drawing comics for 30 something years. It's relatively easy. Horses are my downfall. Like, horses are the problem, not men or females, or it's horses. Just don't ask me to draw a horse, man.
So the next one,
or a dog,
or a dog. There's Taki Soma. Taki
a dog looks like a little horse.
Taki Soma from the background. And hi, Taki. So the next one, Taki, the next one is going to be me on a horse. me on a horse holding a dog.
No.
It'll look like you holding a child in a car.
Like, is he riding on a rat and he's holding a horse? Is that what's going on? But that's why I use reference. I mean, that's when I got to hunker down, and just like any sort of musician working with something they're not super comfortable with, or I'm sure even as a host, there's been situations where it's like, oh, this isn't quite my thing. You got to figure it out, and it's fun. It's problem solving.
So your favorite thing to do, well, one of them is to listen to late night conspiracy radio of whatever flavor, right? Or something going on in the background, maybe Ancient Aliens is playing, what have you. But that's your thing. And have you ever been, listening to a story, listening to somebody's alien encounter, while you're drawing, and then suddenly your idea changes.
Oh, constantly.
Right? You're really, tell me, give me an example of that.
Oh, entire storylines are built around listening to your show or a small handful of others, or this general sort of this field, right? Whether it's a cryptid stuff, conspiracy stuff, UFO stuff. The first time I really used a lot of it was in the book called The Victories, which was sort of superheroes meets ancient aliens. And I threw every conspiracy that I could find and fill that with. Like if I wrote a list of it, it would be all the classics, so to speak. Like we get through, there's Bohemian Grove in there. We go underneath the Georgia Guidestones to find.
I remember that. Yeah, that's right.
Part of it is that there, and the upcoming Project Monarch is very much the same. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff. I hate when people read stuff off list, but later on, if you want, I could read off the list of, I wrote the different conspiracies that are in there. And one of the reasons why they're interesting is, in the first place, it's sort of modern folklore. Like you're saying things about society through whether it's cryptids or UFOs or conspiracy stuff. There's also the fact that in many cases, people are saying these very strange things are also very true. So if they're very true, there's just more stories waiting to be told. I try not to retell stories that I feel like somebody just made up out of full cloth. That's not nearly as interesting to me. But people who either have a theory that they live by and they believe that these theories are real things.
If the theories can be based on reality, right? Like
Yeah.
if it can lead to like some kind of like physical evidence,
Yeah.
But it obviously can't be proved.
Mhm.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Taki's helped me a lot through this, because especially with Project Monarch, it became so conspiracy forward. I really lost the narrative, the story, the human story, and it kind of became like a field trip through conspiracy theories. And it would have been easier to just do that as a straightforward, almost journalistic approach. But when you're weaving stories and these things into stories, you like Last of Us, the zombies and all that wouldn't be interesting without great characters.
Yeah, that's
really
right.
have to care about the character stuff. Yeah.
So when the three of us hung out, it was like 10 years ago, right? And I'm just going to let you know, Michael. So Taki pulls me aside and she's whispering. I was like, "Speak up. What's going on?" She goes, I have to tell you something. I said, "Okay." She goes, "I taught Michael everything he knows." I was like, "Oh, okay. All right. We don't talk about that, but I just wanted to let you know a little." I said, "Okay."
No, I'm happy to talk about that. Honestly, I mean, that's why we're always attached at hip. Like when it comes to stories, when it comes to writing and art, we're just there for each other.
Yeah.
And luckily, because like whatever that we have, we don't turn them into like competition egos. It's always what's best for the art piece, what's best for the story. And we just talk about that stuff all the time. And whether it's her work or my work, it's kind of hard to tell where they begin and end, which is why we're attached to each other all the time. Because
we literally learn from each other so much, lean on each other so much.
Right.
Yeah. I'm working on like 3 stories right now, and I constantly turn. I'm like, yeah, I think this is going, but I don't know. Like, like, tell me like if this kind of works for you or whatever, and like, it just kind of goes and it kind of blurs the line of like whose work is this? Like, is it ours? Is it just mine? Is it just his? Yeah.
Right. Well, that's got to be a real issue. That's not a fake issue. That's non-trivial. Right? If you know what I'm saying, that's like a real issue.
I mean, it's not just because we're fine with it. We don't have any sort of competition in that field. There's been times where I've wanted to give Taki more credit on something because she was so heavy in like the editorial part on my end, like really sculpting out the outline of a story. But she's like, no. Like in the end, you're still doing it and stuff. And, so luckily we just don't have that a competition thing or a real ego thing in between us. So
somebody just commented, you should draw Jimmy as a centaur.
You look a little more pan-like than a centaur. But.
Yeah, right. And that's, you're both artists and comic book artists. Is that how you met?
Yeah, that's how we
Right?
met.
Because I mean, the crazy part is, or the other side would be, you didn't know that each other were artists, and then you find out that you're artists, then you find out that you're a comic book artist. That'd be pretty whack.
Well, sort of like when you met me, I think she thought I was just a writer.
Well, no, I knew you did something in comics, but I didn't know. And because I was just breaking into the industry, so I didn't really know anybody, right? And this writer that I was working with was just like, oh yeah, that's Mike Oeming right there, and I'm like, that sounds familiar. So I went up to him and I was like, hey, Oeming, we're gonna rumble after the con, and yeah. And if you it's just a fist and like no weapons or whatever, and if you don't show up, then you forfeit. So just so you know. And he's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, she leaves an impression.
And I don't want to get too sideways here, but the other part is when she is Taki. I'm talking to Michael. I'm not talking to you, Taki. I'm talking to Michael. She's so friggin' good.
Yeah.
Right? She is so good. And it's difficult for me to say this in front of her. If she wasn't there, you and I could just, but so I'll put up my hand. I'm going to block her right now. She's so good that there are times where you look and you're like, she's like the best artist ever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She's like at that level. And when you're at that level, there has to be a little bit of sense of competition. Michael, you've got to be on your game. You can't slack.
No, because like the better she gets, the better I get. And
right, that's what I'm saying.
She really had a breakthrough when she did this her biography book called Sleeping While Standing, and
which I have. And thank you for that, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, she chose to tell chunks of her life in these 4-page increments. Now imagine, like it's a very little amount of space, and when she started writing this, she learned how to tell a story by just cutting out all of the fat and really being laser focused on what the purpose of the story was. And that evolution that she had as a writer changed the way that I wrote narrative. So like right now I'm writing something else for Dark Horse based on William of Newbury, this 11th century monk. And because she learned to tell those short stories in those little tiny bits, it helped me figure out how to tell a much larger story, but keep it laser focused on the characters, laser focused on what the point was. And without those evolutions, like I'd still be kind of writing the way I used to write, which is just use a lot of words and hope that they make sense. So in her evolution as a writer, it's really changed. It's affected me. And there were design elements that I learned while doing a book called Cave Carson, which was very psychedelic, and I was using a lot of patterns and patterns in the backgrounds and psychedelic patterns. And she started to play off of that and learn how to play around with the page in a different, more 3-dimensional way. And, so we're just excited when the other person does something, this next little evolution, because you bounce off of it and get new ideas.
Now you go back to the beginning with Art Bell. And listening to that and being inspired by the show. I'm not going to get into the Area 51 caller. We've discussed that many times, and that's still one of the best shows I've ever done, by the way, was the Area 51 caller show with you.
Shout out to Brian Glass.
Yeah, and man, I still have he posted this meme. Well, back then they weren't called memes. Now they're called memes. But he did this meme of the Hall of Fame in frames. Did you see that?
Yes.
I just love that. And so anyway, the storyline behind ET and Contact. You have been following this as deep as it can go every single day for the last 25 years, right? This is what you do. This is how you work. If we back this up, you know, to 1993, 1994, and you're a kid, you know, you're drawing and listening to, you're a kid now, but you were when you were a baby, right? You're drawing and stuff. Did you have any idea that this would all unfold to be a part of our reality? Did you have any idea back then?
No, you know, I mean, it was super fringy then. And, you know, like, if you thought, like, only recently could you have a story where they're not playing the X-Files music or old Twilight Zone music or something like that. But back then, like, that was the standard thing. It was something you were a little embarrassed to bring up, even, you know, or shy about, because it was just straight out ridiculed. So to see where it went, I never would have guessed sort of the arc of it in pop culture, and especially sort of the revelations around, you know, 2017, as close as we've really gotten to some form of disclosure, and to hear like the vast majority of America and the world just kind of go, meh.
Yeah, pretty nuts. Yeah, pretty nuts. Pretty nuts, because you center, well, you know, I'll put it plural, the both of youans are conspiracy based, right? Whatever it is, Mice Templar, right, is a great example of taking this to the world of mice, but it's all you know, the conspiracy side of things, and that's where and suddenly, you know, this conspiracy stuff is actually going on. We've got a UFO program at the Pentagon. We've got this, we got that, we got pilot. The craziness that is unfolded, and it's like, be careful what you wish for, you know. And I thought that the world was going to lose their mind, and they didn't, Michael. They did. I don't understand it.
Well, I think they didn't because it was like the evidence wasn't actually there. Like, nothing was shown that changed anything. They just confirmed it, you know. So it's like it was like a non-event, really. Yeah,
videos were still, they're still videos, you know. By the time they showed those videos, I think they realized that the images don't really matter anymore. You know, what people need to believe is something much stronger, I think, than video images. In fact, it's the last thing I'm interested in when around the subject. You know, video images are so easily manipulated. They've been very easy to manipulate since, I don't know, 2010. So, you know, maybe that was part of it. Maybe it was that, not that people didn't, quote, care. It's just they have already accepted that reality anyway, in general.
Well,
so like
it's true, and we can't forget about the impact of not only Hollywood, but, you know, some of the greatest directors have applied their craft to the subject. Spielberg, Kubrick, and on and on and on, right? Yeah. And Roland Emmerich, and you think of the impact of those movies, not only Close Encounters, but even E.T., right?
Sure.
Or Spielberg's treatment of War of the Worlds, or Kubrick's 2001. These are culturally, Stargate. Think about the impact of Stargate, right?
Yeah.
And that society has, right? That acclimated is a word that is used a lot, but I just think that they've accepted that there's no way that we are alone, and they have seen it so much that when something like this rolls along, it is like, right?
Yeah. Right. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, it's interesting. It's a very interesting reaction, I think. What I'm hoping for is that, you know, there's been some much more interesting developments, you know, recently. And like, what I'm hoping for is just that next level. And it doesn't have to be what we would call full disclosure and stuff, but, you know, to hear somebody much more official who has actually seen stuff, not a secondhand story. Because that's my big fear, is that a lot of this is a bad game of telephone, that it's a lot of folklore that's built into a system that is already leaning on secrets and disinformation, which is like military stuff. Like, and that's not even the conspiratorial end of it. That's just how they operate. You know, you have to keep all of your different operations like firewalled, and you keep your information secure and stuff. And then they start using, you know, like Mirage Men type information to mix all these things in. And like, my fear is that really it is just a bad game of telephone, that people are repeating stuff that they believe to each other. And because it's coming from, you know, somebody with a military background or somebody high political background who believes in these things are happening, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. What we need is somebody who's had their hands on the material, who's really seen the stuff, who is in a position that we can trust, which is also very difficult, to bring that next level, you know, of you know, I've seen the material, and you know, that's the thing.
Like, if we can actually see the material.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
even, like,
okay.
talk about it,
Yeah.
but actually see them, or like, yeah, I think the public perception of actual real like encounter would be like,
yeah,
you know, not somebody reporting that like, yeah, this is confirmed or whatever, like that. Literally,
yeah,
it, like, to the layman, you know, just anybody who's just watching the news, it's just like, oh, okay, what does that even mean? Like, what?
Yeah.
How does that even change anything?
What was interesting wasn't that Grush said these things that he said in his testimony, but when he was saying, you know, I can get you into the skiffs, or, you know, he was setting up the meetings for these politicians to really see stuff. That would be a really great development if that can happen.
Now, if you just took the last 5 minutes of the show, which you guys just laid out there, and that was in a comic book, right? Okay, just think about this for a second.
Yeah.
Right? The Nimitz encounter, the Tic Tac, Fravor, the sighting, the videos get exposed. The ATIP program, there's a secret government UFO program, another conspiracy, right? It is running in the Pentagon, and they're leaking stuff out to the public, and UFOs are real. Then David Grusher, and you did that. Pen and ink, man. Pen and ink. You and Taki crank out that book. You crank out that comic. Everybody would go, that's too sci-fi. That's too much. It'll never happen.
It'll never happen. Strangest things that reality is hard to compete with, you know.
Reality is weirder than like if we made it up.
Yeah, that it's everything that you just said to me is almost something a Hollywood exec would pass on. Nah, that's
the whole
not
believable situation. You know, when you have ex-CIA operatives coming out and saying, yeah, we used UFOs to cover up, you know, real stuff. And then kind of saying, well, we also threw some truth in there. So now it's like, well, are you still just being operatives? Like, are you still just doing the thing that you do? Or, you know, like,
but Michael, and then they use UFOs, real UFO sightings, to suggest that it was secret government aircraft, right? So, right, to smoke and mirrors a real UFO situation, and they use the storyline to their advantage wherever it would fit, whether it was covering up their real programs or it's covering up the UFO story, right? Whichever way they want it to fit.
And a lot of this stuff would be kind of easy to dismiss on a bunch of different levels. But when you hear about like the true stories of something as bizarre as the whole MK Ultra program, right? It is so outlandish. It's so dark. It's so beyond the pale of what you would think makes any kind of common sense. I mean, they were using witches and witchcraft and, you know, psychics and putting people to sleep for months on end so that they control them, and like really trying to create Manchurian candidates and like heart attack guns and like all this stuff that sounds like a bad comic book or really far out there. And when you read that stuff was real and you hear the accounts and they're tragic and they're dark and they're horrible and they're bizarre, the UFO stuff and these kind of like these stories don't seem so far-fetched anymore. And it's almost like that's the oil that you put on the slippery slope once you get into conspiracy and UFO stuff. is when you know some of the stuff that was real was so much more bizarre than just simple UFOs. Like, UFO seems pretty simple compared to something like what went on with like the mind control stuff.
You're right.
That's probably one of the weirdest things that
I watched the documentary series about MK Ultra, and I forget the name of it. It'll come to me anyway.
Wormwood?
Yeah, Wormwood. Okay,
yeah.
so I'm watching Wormwood, and it's not about MK Ultra. Well, it's about MK Ultra. It's about the Unabomber. That's what it's about. And the whole Unabomber thing, especially after the fact, that was never talked about.
Yeah.
No, the government doesn't want you to know. Yeah, they don't want you to know that.
And if you try just explaining that stuff to people, it just sounds insane. It just sounds so over the top. Of course it's going to be dismissed, but when, and that's what makes it difficult. Like I think last time I was on the show, we were kind of going toe to toe a little bit I was looking at a lot of conspiracy stuff as more psychological, more sort of explainable. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar kind of stuff. But when you look at the stuff that you can prove was real, that the people involved are talking about, so it's not a mystery what happened. It's so strange that it throws normality off balance. Totally. What you think is acceptable normality, it just isn't quite there anymore. It really skews the way you look at other stuff.
Well, in
Wormwood, things get crazy sometimes.
In Wormwood, so I'm watching Wormwood, which was, a class A, right? Class A, yeah, perfect. And I'm like, did they just say Ted Kaczynski?
Yeah,
it's like did they?
Yeah,
is that what? Yeah. And it's just like, you mean this stuff is really real? Yeah. Now, and it's okay. I love a conspiracy. All right, a conspiracy theory, I should say.
Yes, I'm with you there. I'm all about the theories. Yeah,
I'm all about it, man. But when you get to the end of the road on some of these, and you find out, right?
Yeah,
and it's just like,
I discovered a really, really weird thing when I was doing Bluebook. We're doing the Maury Island is the second story arc that we do. And we're doing the Maury Island stuff. And there's a section with these two guys who I think they were faking the slag that was found or something. And I'm rounding this out very badly. And I'm going to forget the names, which doesn't help either. But one of the guys involved in Maury Island later was all tied up into the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
He was arrested then as one of the three hobos.
He's in Oliver Stone's movie.
Yeah, and he was involved in Maury Island.
Yes.
The UFO stuff. Either faking or having real UFO information.
Yes,
and kind of stuff that's what I mean by it's almost like an Austin Powers plot of over the top insanity, but it's real. And it doesn't really make sense either. But, so we're missing huge chunks of the story or motivations or who was paying who, or was it just crazy egos? I think some of these people in this that we think are involved in crazy conspiracy stuff just wanted attention, and they're in a place to get it in government, they can just do crazy stuff.
Right. He, I'll think of his name here in a second. And he was, if you follow his career and the highlights of his career from Maury Island all the way past the JFK assassination, by the way.
Yeah.
But he was involved in every crazy ass thing in the country. That dude had his toes in everything. Black magic, underground satanic cults, MK Ultra, Maury Island, more than one UFO case, by the way.
Yeah.
All the way through to the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
It's just you can't.
What's stopping you from achieving more? This guy has a serious overachiever. Somebody in the comments have to has his name, so that people can look him up.
Okay.
But I mean, look, reality is so much stranger than fiction. It can be, insane.
Yeah.
It's the most interesting thing out there. is reality.
Somebody, I've had this question up for about 30 minutes now. So just really quick, do you do your own colors or does somebody else do it? I know the answer, but I can't. I don't have a buzzer here. Otherwise, I would go.
Mostly it's been a guy named Nick Filardi, who did most of Powers with me and Takio. And then Taki started coloring United States of Murder Inc. with us. And we've done a bunch of projects together. So it's Taki and Nick.
Yeah, and
Mike actually does color his own stuff too when he has the time. So it just kind of depends on the time and convenience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other day, Michael and I were on the phone. It must have been, Michael, was it before I went to the UK?
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael and I are talking, and Taki, I don't know if you heard the conversation. You probably did, but we spent 45 minutes talking about pen and ink and watercolor tools. We weren't talking about UFOs. We weren't talking about conspiracy theories, MK Ultra, alien abductions. No, we were talking about coloring and pen and ink and how to get it done. And that was a pretty interesting, boring to everybody else, but
well, as a reminder to your audience, you're an artist. I mean, you spent time drafting and doing commercial work and stuff, and that was a time where everything was done by hand. There's no computer. You had to do everything by hand, and tape and layers and crazy stuff.
I remember Michael and I were talking. I had forgotten about this. To clean your ink, and so the pens. This Taki doesn't even know what we're talking about. I'll bet you money on it. See, exactly. So your ink, your
3 years. His
okay.
Junior, that's it. I'm not that young.
The mechanical pens, they were mechanical that you drew with ink. Had a little piston on the inside. It was a needle that went down, and you had different widths. You had a 1/2 point, a 1/4 point, 1/2 point, 1 point, 1.5 point, 3 point, the real wide ones. But inside was a little plunger, like a piston at the top with a long needle that went down on the inside, and you shook them. Up. Very expensive. I think they were only made in like Switzerland, right? Yeah. And I'm not making that up, right? They were German or something. And very expensive pen sets. But anyway, the ink would dry up on the inside, and they wouldn't drain right. And you would have to have them cleaned. So you would take all of your parts out, take these things apart. It's like an engine. You take it apart. You'd have a beaker with water in it and alcohol. Water or a solvent, and then put all your parts in there, and then that would go on a vibrating plate. Yeah, remember that? And so overnight, and then you'd wake up the next day, clean all your stuff out, and then your pens would work again, and you were good
half the time cleaning those things.
You spend half the time drawing, half the time cleaning, and that was
one of your viewers has named the guy was Fred Crimson.
Yeah, Fred Crimson. And who did that? Did that just pop up? Fred like Crimson. Genocide. Yeah, that's genocide. Fred Crimson.
Ice Spear, maybe? I don't know. No, too old for my glasses.
Genocide.
Genocide. There you go.
Yeah, genocide. And genocide has a fade to black tattoo.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, dude, it's on the side of his shin. So we were up by you, and we were up in Portland, and we were sitting by this campfire and chain smoking, right? And he goes, "Jimmy, check this out." Puts his leg up on the log, right? Pulls it out. It's like, dude, what? Oh my God. And it's beautiful too, by the way. It is perfect. It's like it's yeah. It's the fade to black T-shirt, right? The fade to black T-shirt on his leg. Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. Jonathan. Yeah, so Fred Crimson, and if you go follow his career, and that is a conspiracy story that if you wrote it, Hollywood would reject that script.
You'd have to do it as a comedy. I mean, that's what I thought was interesting about that film. Men Who Stare at Goats. It was a satire. It kind of had to be. you know, because otherwise you'd have to go really dark. Well, I don't know, I'm not sure how dark the remote viewing stuff got versus MK Ultra was dark. I don't know that the remote viewing stuff was that bad. But, you know, you just had to write it as a comedy. You know, I mean, it's so nuts. So crazy. I don't mean the technology part of it. I mean some of the personalities that were involved.
Right. Yeah, played by Don Knotts, right? Played by Fred Crimson, Don Knotts. But Taki brought up a really, really good point, and you touched upon this. Videos aren't good enough anymore, right? And Taki's point was it wasn't a real event, right? We didn't get that. And I'm wondering if even that, right, something real would be good enough, or everybody would just say, it's fake, right?
Yeah, that would still happen. It would still be split down the middle. Of course, you know, like if you have an actual general coming out and saying, you know, we have this and this material and such, you know, our community, half of it would go, don't believe him.
Look,
why now?
Jonathan just said about his tattoo. Every time Jimmy tells that story, my wife laughs at me. You got that tattoo.
I thought you were going to say it grows every time you tell a story.
Oh, man. But now, let's, what would it take, right? What would it take? Even the president, that was always the standard, right? That was always the bar. We need the president on live TV, standing at the podium. Okay, we are not alone in the universe, right? That's what it would take. That would be real disclosure. And I'm not so sure that that's good enough anymore.
I don't actually think so. I think it has to be like the kind of...
What, an alien invasion? You want Independence Day?
It has to like change the world. Like maybe like an actual alien speaks to the world or something that extreme has to happen for people to be like, okay, that's something. This is now everything's changed.
Do you remember Childhood's End, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arthur C. Clarke, truly, I mean, way better than 2001. 2001 was a great movie, but the book was written after the movie was made.
I gotta hold it back. Hold on. It's gonna fight me now.
Series was fantastic. I loved that series.
But we all love, and everybody knows my affection of 2001. It's the greatest film ever made, right? But what most people don't realize was it was developed as a screenplay with Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick. And the book was being written while the movie was being made. Okay, it wasn't the opposite, right? The book came first, and then Kubrick made the movie. But Childhood's End is a better story than 2001. It's a better story.
What's interesting about like Childhood's End too is the fact that the aliens didn't want to reveal themselves. I'm going to spoil it.
Well, that's why I brought it up. Why I brought it up. Okay, so Taki's saying, right, you need the alien to come down and go, okay, so check this out, right? Okay, and you're right, Taki. And in Childhood's End, the way that Arthur C. Clarke presented it, E.T. didn't want to show himself, so he spoke behind a two-way mirror and spoke through an ambassador, right, that he chose. And then he turned around, and he was a farmer, right? That's all he was, just a farmer. And he turns around and speaks to the world. But the world reacted and went under the spell of E.T. without ever seeing him. But they accepted the reality of it. And I often wonder if it couldn't possibly, work out that same way.
No. So first of all, if you have aliens that look demonic, and then you have a farmer who's the ambassador, who's basically like a medium, like immediately you're going to have like a spiritual occult stuff going on, and right, like that'll be the angle. Like, oh, they're not here as anything other than they're demons from hell. They're satanic, and and that was kind of like the point of the story is like our perceptions, I think, of like what these creatures and beings are. And really, I don't know that there's a giant real difference between, alien and demonic, or alien and angelic, or, when you look at the whole picture, the ancient aliens argument makes a lot of sense of like really asking that question, like, where does science and religion and magic kind of end or meet, or the more you think about it, the crazier it gets. Like even our own technology, as we get closer and more advanced to some of our quantum ideas and stuff, it starts to really mimic biblical type stuff. And I don't know that we can psychologically handle that end of it. We'll always be at each other's throats, unfortunately.
Well, you, the both of you, the Vitruvian man, proportions, right? The human form, and how to get that correct. This is what you do. This is what pays the bills. This is what keeps the lights on for you. Drawing the human form. And do you think that E.T. Would be similar to us? 2 arms, 2 legs, 5 fingers, that kind of thing, 2 eyes, and that DNA around the universe probably is pretty close to being the same. How would you perceive that?
I think there's like an infinite, quite literally, chances of like, aliens being carbon based like us and having like, it just, who knows, it kind of depends on the environment. It depends on like where they are, where they're from, their gravity system, and their, all of those things.
Right.
And we're only talking about carbon based, beings that, who knows, like if there's different kinds of like light based things, like maybe there are light based aliens walking around, who knows? We can't see them.
Watching you do everything. Yeah. I mean, my best guess is like, I like the idea of if I had to like really put my money down on what people are seeing and if it's real, like we really are seeing these things, the idea that they're us in the future visiting in some form makes the most sense to me, largely because you only have to make one giant logical leap, which is that we don't kill ourselves over the next 1,000 years. So we don't kill ourselves over the next 1,000 years. I don't think it would be impossible to say that we wouldn't have technology to send back something through time to observe us, and it might come in different forms. That would be my best guess. So in that case, I would say, it's probably bipedal like us. Outside of that, the infinite choices in the universe leaves an infinite amount of answers.
Yeah, well, Taki gave a better answer. I'm like, Taki.
I told you she's looking at it. She knows how to like tell a story like concisely.
Yeah. She listens to Fade to Black. See, but here's the thing. Taki brings up a great point. But this is where Taki's defense doesn't hold water, though. I think gravity is a big part of it, right? I think that would determine height, right? A lot of gravity, you're going to be shorter, right? Less gravity, you're going to be taller. That makes sense, right? Different types of radiation coming through the atmosphere would dictate skin color. You could be green, blue, whatever color on your skin. But that's as far as I take that, Taki. The other parts, bipedal, sure. 2 arms, stereo, right? Stereo vision, stereo hearing, taste, hearing, and things would all. I think you know what I mean? I think that this is a pretty good design. An octopus isn't a good design, right? Even the reptilians and everything, it's still a reptilian head on a human form, right? And I do have some friends that are very reptile-ish anyway. So they kind of, you know what I mean? I think that the basic DNA structure, the idea, I think that this is a pretty good design. You know who did it really good, though? The movie Valerian, the intro to Valerian. Did you see, you read the comic, right? You read the book?
No, I know it was based on a European book. I think it was by Mobius.
Yeah, it was Mobius. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I love the graphic novel.
And the way that the intro of the film, it's the ISS, right? And so the ISS has been built upon and built, and so they start at the beginning with the United States and China coming through and shaking hands, and they're up there, or India, Japan, and of course, and then the first ET spaceship pulls up, and ET walks through the door, and then you have a string, and this is over a 400-year period of different species coming through the door. And Luc Besson, who's the best at any of this, he's just a great filmmaker, but his creature design that are coming through the door, you couldn't, each one was completely different than the others, except 2 legs, 2 arms, I think. You know what I mean? That element was there in each one.
Biologists talking about this and taking their best kind of guesses as well, and they had a similar argument, something about the bipedal design, that even when you look at the rest of the Earth, of course there's the weird fishes and that kind of thing, but even like birds and dogs and animals, mammals, have a very kind of similar design and not that wildly different. I mean, even whales are just evolved hippos, I think it is, some sort of land mammal that went out there. So yeah, I mean, I think the sort of bipedal thing makes sense. This is a good bet.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Michael Oeming, and sitting in Taki Soma. She's right there. Taki Soma. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023, live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip, as Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo, with live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors, featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. Hi, everybody. Jimmy Church here. Very special announcement, and that is we are shipping Fade to Black t-shirts again. It's been almost 2 years. We did a full upgrade to the website, so you can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. It's all simple to do, and it's right there. Remember, we broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We bring you the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable and amazing guests, the best conversations. We do that 4 nights a week. We also do 4 days a week. We broadcast the news, and we do that live too as well. It's not a one-man show. I do it with website support. I do it with producers. I do it with writers and artists. All contribute to the show. The best way to help support what we do here is with the Fade to Black t-shirt. And you can get your Fade to Black t-shirt one of 2 ways. First, go to jimmychurchradio.com, order a shirt. It's really that simple. You're going to get a tracking number, it's going to get shipped, and it's going to get autographed. The second way to get a shirt is with a Game Changer membership. Now, the Game Changer membership not only includes a free t-shirt, but you get a private email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads. You have full access to the website, and everything includes free shipping, and everything is autographed. So help support the show. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. The links are below. You can just go to jimmychurchradio.com, and it's right on the website. So there you go. I'm Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. I'm so excited that I just have one thing to say. Go Beckley Teppy. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. Is me. Where is me? I don't see me. Okay, I am back. Let's do this. Okay. Man, that was weird. That was a glitch in the matrix right there. Our guest tonight, Michael Avon Oeming and Taki Soma is, well, now our guest tonight is Taki Soma. And, and these are the new Fade to Black t-shirts. Let me pull this aside that Michael Oeming drew for us. And you can get yours right now by just clicking below. This is like an infomercial. This is a late night infomercial. And so check this out. Hand drawn, lettered, everything else by Michael Oeming. And I'm very proud of this. And it says official Fade or Not right there. And there you go. Let me see if I can get it close. You got to see the detail on the face. Let me see if I can get this on the camera. You got to see the face. The face is the best part. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's a handsome dude. That's a handsome dude. All right. I guess we'll bring Michael back in too as well. And Michael, I just got back from the UK, and it was a great trip, and I tried to document as much of it as I could and stuff. But what I found over in the UK, and this is a question for you, obviously, but what I found over in the UK is, first off, beautiful country, beautiful people. Very smart, very kind, very nice, and they cook a mean breakfast. By the way, it was a great trip, and I had a good time. And a shout out to everybody over in the UK that I got to meet that are listening tonight. It was just an amazing trip. But what I found, very intelligent on the subject, very engaged. Do you have the same thing? Is your audience as universal and they just get it?
Yeah. What's really interesting is for some reason South America, I've got a lot of just rabid fans down there, whether it's the mainstream comic stuff like Thor, or around the UFO field and stuff. South America, I got to make a trip to Brazil because the fans down there are just, they love all this stuff. They love comics. They're very passionate. I've spent a lot of time in Spain. Spain has had us out several times. The audience out there is, again, just very receptive to all this stuff. It'll be interesting when Blue Book is out for a while to see that specific audience. And it'll be great to do one of these kind of, UFO conferences in the UK. That would be pretty amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, go ahead, Taki.
No, I was just saying that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I can't, I hadn't even thought about like a UFO conference in like UK.
Yeah, and that was our last vacation we had. We were in London for a couple of days for a big comic convention, and then we just got in a car and just drove around the south of England for like a full week, and we visited a bunch of the stone circles and all the obvious nerdy fringe stuff.
Yeah.
And just had the best time just talking with locals, hanging out in small towns and pubs and doing some shopping, and just it was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on the first night. I did a thing with James Fox. I did another thing with Craig Charles, and I was outside after that, taking a quick break, And Michael, one of the organizers there, he comes up to me and he goes, Jimmy, man, you got to get in there. I said, what's up? You know what he's all right. You've got a queue that is really long. I go, a what? In front of your table. Nice. What are you talking about? What? Dude, get in there. And I was like, what's he talking? I walk back in. It's a big place, right? The Boulder Center. It's massive, really cool. Around the corner, and there's my table, and there's a line. I mean, like a line, not 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, a friggin' line.
Yeah.
And I was, you what? And so I went and sat at the table and signed autographs, 2 hours, right?
Wow.
And signed and took pictures. But that's great. But everybody in that line, they weren't there just to get a signature of some dude that was just on stage with, Craig Charles.
Yeah.
They were stepping up going, hey, Jimmy, I wanted to ask you. It kind of reminded me of a Galaxy Quest. Right? It was like Galaxy Quest. Yeah. But, they're at the convention, right? On episode 873, when you were interviewing... Right. And I was like, okay, you asked Stanton Friedman about, and I was like, okay, all right. Those are the fans. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
and it was one after another. Every single person there wanted to talk to me about Fade to Black and their favorite guest. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. When I've been to Europe and to England and UK, Scotland and England specifically, like they were just so welcoming, I mean, it sounds this cliche and obvious. This is what you're supposed to say, but seriously, like there was a cab driver who didn't charge us. Like when he found that we were there for comic books and, we were Americans and stuff. And like, we're there, just as nerds and, like they didn't charge us. And we go to bars and like everybody find out that you're sketching and they would come around and buy you drinks. And it's a good thing I don't drink anymore because those days were pretty.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, you're right about that. I had to, I would have been plowed.
I'm too old for that anymore, but they were very, very kind with it.
Everybody was coming up and, can I get you a shot of vodka? You talk about it on the show. It's like, dude, can I get you a shot of vodka? Can I get you a shot of vodka? Can I get you a shot of vodka? And
you're right, they're a little less starstruck as well. Like they want to know about the word.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know
100%. 100%. 100%. It was absolutely amazing. And then for me, I'm a fanboy too. But people don't. I'm entitled to be a fanboy too.
Yep.
And when Craig Charles, and I knew that we were talking about this earlier. And Craig came up to me, and I was very excited. I was very nervous. I'm a huge Red Dwarf fan, and things. And when he came up to me, Jimmy Church, he did this from the back of me, and I turned around to Craig, and I ended up hanging out with him for the evening, just so for the evening, and to sit down where I'm the fanboy here.
Yeah. I was such a fan of Red Dwarf. I drew Craig Charles as a character in Judge Dredd when I was drawing Judge Dredd, and he's on the cover, as Lister, of course.
Right.
And what I would encourage fans of this show to watch that show, Red Dwarf, not only because it's funny science fiction, but they have a really great point of view, which is in this future, there are no aliens. Like the only life forms are what's left of humans, and they're almost not even any humans. And it's just sort of genetically engineered life forms and mistakes that we've made through time and stuff. And Rimmer, one of these other characters who's technically dead, believes in aliens. And so funny and strange. And their observations about our views on aliens and alien life form is so strong, and it's so well done and funny. Craig Charles.
The BBC and British humor, which is already whack, right? Yeah. It's the best. It's the best humor, right? It's so good. And Australian TV too is really, really funny stuff. But Red Dwarf was out there for even British. You know what I mean?
The concepts were great. Like we were talking about, like there's a holographic character, and like another character gets a holographic glove so he can smack him. I mean, that's great.
Right. And the whole concept behind it, the last human alive, the last pure human alive, 3 million years in the future, wakes up and he's alone. That right there writes itself.
And there's a lot of the stuff that we talk about is like sort of the Von Däniken Ancient Aliens lore type stuff, where at the beginning of the story, before he goes into his cryogenic sleep, he smuggles a cat onto the ship with him. So you find out that the cat was pregnant. So the radiation and stuff, like over the 3 million years, it evolved into a whole race of people, of cat people, and they had this mythology about Lister and the creator, and they worshipped him and all this stuff, and it was like so on the money about like our own theories and stuff. So again, like it's not just a funny show, but the logic behind it, I think would resonate with a lot of the audience.
Yeah, it drew me in. We
should get paid for doing this right now.
Yeah, so this was a few years ago, and I went through a heavy, dude, it was bad. I went through a Red Dwarf addiction, and it took me a couple of weeks. It ran for 11 seasons, and I don't know how many episodes per season, but dude, it was taking me forever. But I couldn't stop watching it. And the intelligent, funny show though, that's the thing. It was hilarious, but it was all of those inside jokes, kind of like in a weird way, not the same, but Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory, right? Just listen to it. The physics jokes in there are priceless. Yeah. Right? It's what always kept me going in Big Bang Theory. It was just another sitcom and another comedy and stuff. But the title of the show says it all. And that's what Lister did, and that's what Red Dwarf did, and I became a huge fan. And then to turn around after my addiction, dude, I had to go through a 12-step program because of Red Dwarf. And I turn around and I get to hang out with Craig Charles. Yeah, are you kidding me? And we did a couple of things. I have you asked, let me see if I've got this. Check this out, everybody. You ready? I'm watching all the Lister. Look at all the Red Dwarf comments in the chat. Okay, you guys ready for this? Okay, it's okay to be peanut butter and jelly. There is, hold on. Now I've got to remove it. Hold on, man. This is the thing with there it is. There's me and Craig Charles, man, sitting there. I think we had 1,000 people, and I got to sit, and man, and so Craig said we had a whole lineup for the conversation, and Craig's like, let's just riff. Let's fade to black this thing. And I said, all right, okay, we can do that. And so we just sat without anything in front of us and sat and talked for an hour, and he lit it up. His knowledge on the subject on UFOs, he just did a UFO documentary series on, I think it was on Netflix, I think it was, called UFO Conspiracies. Yeah.
And you said he had his own experience? He had a sighting?
So he tells the story. Can I share it?
Please.
Can I tell you? So he says, this is in front of everybody, lost it. He goes, so I'm sitting on the front porch with a friend of mine, Jimmy, and this formation of triangles came over the top of us. And I said, triangles. And they were going, and I was hitting a spliff. And he goes, are you watching this? and the audience just died. And I thought, man, I just got Craig Charles to talk about weed and UFOs. That was are you watching this? And he said it was one of those things where he just couldn't, that it was a formation He said they were flying like geese, right, in a V formation, but they were all blue triangles.
Interesting.
Yeah, glowing blue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forget what part of England he was in. He lives in Manchester, but I don't know. He said the name of the city, but anyway,
Well, you have to have him on the show to tell the story.
Yeah, he's going to be on Fade to Black here real soon, and he just texted me. But there he is, right there, man. There is friggin' Lister, man.
Legend.
How cool is that, right?
Yeah.
Man, he had me rolling. He this picture in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, let me get rid of something here, everybody. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I can lose this. Okay. So this picture in the background that's here. Now that's a giant, right, image, Jumbotron, whatever you want to call it, behind us. And he goes, this is the thing with videos and imaging today. Don't believe what you see. You can't. He said, this picture of me, and he's talking about this, and he turns around and he says, this picture, originally, I had a cigarette hanging out of my mouth, and in my hand was a lighter, right? That was the picture. He said,
you can see it now.
He said, this is the publicity photo that we use, and there's no cigarette. And he goes, now, you would think that they took the lighter out of my hand. They didn't. He goes, that's not even my hand. That's somebody else's hand. That's not my hand. And he goes, you can't believe. He said, now, would anybody know? No. Yeah. You look at this, and he said, but I know what they did to make this picture. That's not my hand. And they removed the cigarette and repaired my lip, and that's the photograph. And he said, it's the same thing with UFOs.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, what a great point. Kind of like what Taki was talking about earlier. Right. And it's that videos aren't good enough anymore. And
you really can't trust it. And it's worrisome too. I mean, we won't get too much into it, but on social media, it's just so easy to manipulate images for clicks or for whatever motivation you might have. There was I just recently joined TikTok, and it was specifically just to promote the work and stuff. But when you first get on there, the meter or the algorithm is set to outrage and division, right? So I'm just seeing all this horrible stuff before I get a chance to train it, and I can just see how much of it clearly is just not real or taken out of context or manipulated for any reasons. I'm not pointing any specific thing, and it's wow, this is just the world that we live in. And my son will send me videos and stuff sometimes. I'm it scares me. It presents itself as real, especially now that we don't have journalism or news sites that we can trust at all. We've told ourselves that we can't, and they've proven that we kind of can't. So then the next thing is what we're being shown in social media, and they come in these 30-second loops, so you're not really paying attention to really what you're looking at, and some crazy stuff that if you step back and think about it for a second, you'd be that's insane. Of course I don't believe this. This is fake. But you're seeing it in these really quick scrolls, so it just kind of goes into your head.
I don't believe anything.
I show her cute cat videos, and she's that's not real.
You know what? Today I spent some time on TikTok, and I was watching this video of this dog and cat running around chasing each other, and the dog was so fast, right? And I'm watching. I mean, the dog was it's this. I'm watching a fake video, right, of a dog and cat, and I was cool with it. And when you're scrolling through TikTok and you see these UFO videos, and once TikTok knows your viewing trends, right, that's all you're going to see. And you're scrolling through one fake video after another, and that's not what's fascinating to me. It's the view count.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
5 million views, 6 million views, and what people it's either they don't care or they are watching this because it's entertainment, right? And it's whatever. Or how many of them are going, dude, right?
I'm
Oh
willing
my
to
God.
bet, because I kind of went through this myself. At one point on one of these interviews, somebody asked me, do you believe in aliens? Like, just a straightforward question. Now, I had been following alien lore and like the subject and stuff for just so long, I never actually stopped myself to ask myself, what do I think is actually happening? Like, what is my belief level? Because it was the whole picture I was really interested in. And I bet many of the people looking at these videos that are clearly fake and liking them, they're not asking themselves a question. They're just caught into the moment. It's a very human thing. I'm not being critical. So I think a lot of this is like, it's sort of false information. Like, we think this many people are falling for this thing. But maybe they're not. It's just a moment, and you're not thinking, because you're the way that social media works is it's so like just sucks you through. Boom, next thing, pulls you in, next thing.
Yeah.
And
you have this perception of this faceless people reacting, but maybe it's not really true.
It's so hard to tell.
Right.
Well, what are we going to do when Chat GPT and one of the versions of it is going to start cranking out UFO videos?
They probably already are, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
It's already happening, and yeah, I mean, it's not that like these AI or Chat GPT is cranking these out. It's the people using that to crank them out. Like, I think we have to always remember that it's not like that AI is actually intelligent and is actually thinking and is like creating these things. It's people saying like, oh, this is a technology I can use and this is how I'm going to use it. And, it can be used for good. It can be used for bad.
And here's the other side of it. I wake up tomorrow and I'm just in a crafty mood, and I type in create a Michael Oeming comic, right?
Yep.
And the subject UFOs and the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
Yeah, and they can probably do it.
I feel lucky to the extent of like I don't have a fear of AI or AI art or AI writing. It's always about like how corporations are using it. Not even specific individual people. It's how the corporations are going to use it. That's the biggest problem. I think it can be a fine tool to use amongst your arsenal of stuff, depending on the context of what you're doing. Now, I am concerned for new artists coming up because it's going to be so easy to create content. It's going to be very hard to establish yourself as your own brand or as a name of any kind. I feel lucky as an older artist, having been around. People who are buying my work generally aren't buying it because they're fresh to it and they like the way it looks. They're generally buying it because they're already fans of me. So they're looking at my newsletter and my social media and saying, oh, here's my next thing. They're probably not interested in an imitation of me. However, if you're a new artist coming up, a new creator, a new musician, or anything of any kind of artist, it's going to be much more of an uphill battle to be able to establish yourself when anybody can create A+ content.
Well,
so I'm not worried on a personal basis. I'm more concerned about like new artists and next generation.
Well, if you think about it, because we were talking about this earlier, right? Graphic artists, X-Acto knives, pen and ink, waxing, laying down, cutting, stripe, border tape, right? Remember border tape and cutting those borders perfectly at 45-degree angles to get the two lines to line up and look pretty. And that was a manual. I was an artistic, a graphic designer back then was worth their weight in gold. There's no question about it. Then Illustrator comes along, right? PageMaker comes along, and typesetting, the typesetters, which was an entire industry, typesetting. That was an industry. All the books, all the magazines, all the newspaper, that was typesetting. All of that went away when computers came along. And you have to evolve. You have to, and the ability of computer generated art, CGI, computer generated illustrations, and CG, anything computer generated. That was freaking people out. That's going to put people out of work. That's going to be, well, okay, you kind of have to adapt. But now when we are at a situation where authors can be replaced, right? Where the writing can be replaced, where filmmaking can be replaced, script writing can be replaced. And now somebody sent me an image. I've had a few now of me. Right. Okay. Yeah. And so where they go in and I don't know.
Has anybody done your voice yet? Because there are programs now that can basically listen to hours and hours of your show, imitate not only a voice, but an original show.
Yeah, an original
and it
show.
Won't be good, but at this point,
well,
but it will sound like you. Do you saying stuff?
Well, this show right now is AI. This is not the real me. This isn't. I
know my intelligence is pretty artificial. That's for sure.
And no, I'm talking about paintings. People have sent me paintings that were AI, and I got to tell you, right? So paint Michael Oeming in the style of Renoir. Well, yes, it looks really, really good.
And it's only going to get better as well. You know, so whatever you can say about it, well, it's soulless or whatever. Well, it'll figure out soul in another 10 years, 5 years.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
It'll figure out.
Yeah, you can't fight it. You can't put the toothpaste back in a tube. You know, so we have to adapt and like kind of figure out like what we're gonna do with it. You know?
Well, and see, you guys, and I would assume that most artists that are doing production work these days have the same tools at their disposal. So you're going to do stuff that starts off with a pencil on paper, that moves over into a digital conversion. Then you're working on some kind of, you have a pen and you're drawing on maybe an iPad, or you've got a giant touch screen or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're moving stuff over into the digital realm. You probably do you ever output it back to paper and continue to draw on it?
Yeah, I do all combinations of those. So sometimes I'll do everything traditionally or analog, as I say. Often there's a combination. The piece that I did for you started out as sketches in a sketchbook, which I then scanned, and then I did everything digital. But there are times where I'll take those pencils and I'll scan them in, and then I'll print them out, what's called non-reproduction blue, and then ink on top of that, or finish the drawing, and then I'll scan it back in, and then sometimes doing backgrounds digitally or touching it up digitally. All the black that you see on my art is usually filled in on computer, and I'll fill it in later because of the amount of time it takes to sit there and just put black on a page. Takes forever. So I do all sort of combinations of it.
What Michael was referring to, so everybody understands, in the art world, when you are using black and white art, there's reasons for that. But anyway, you work in blue because blue photographs as white. It photographs as nothing, so it doesn't reproduce. So you do all your touch-ups or your changes are in blue line work, and then when you photograph it, it disappears, and it's not there. Non-reproductive blue. I like the way you drop that in. See, I'm pretty smart, huh? I'm a pretty smart guy.
You know this stuff. You know, I mean, the work I remember you showed a map that you drew of a neighborhood.
Yes,
those kind of drawings are really hard. I had to do one once, and it wasn't very good because it's just a different mindset, you know.
You know what? Hold on.
I really admired your piece there.
Keep talking. You and Taki talk. Ask Taki what kind of shoes she has on.
Taki, what kind of shoes do you have on?
Slippers, because I'm home and I like to be comfortable.
Well, while Jimmy's gone, I guess I'll just encourage you to pre-order the books. Blue Book and Project Monarch. You can pre-order them on Amazon.
Yeah, they're both coming out of Dark Horse Comics.
Did you guys carry the? Did he carry the show, Taki? Did he do good?
Totally did.
He's the co-host.
Yes.
I happen to have that poster that Michael is referring to, and I am going to unroll. I'm not going to show the whole thing or anything, but this is it, and This is a drawing I did of the city of Pasadena.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah.
It'll melt my brain.
And
Good job.
and so if you look really close right there, it says right there, it says Jimmy Church. There, I signed it there at the bottom.
Nice.
And you know what's really funny in this poster, right? I drew myself. Hold on, you got to see this. Let me pull this up. It's right here. I'm standing there I'm standing there with a guitar.
Nice.
I see it.
Can you see it?
You know, I'm gonna sidetrack us a little bit for a second. Speaking of you with the guitar, I have a feeling that you have a graphic novel sitting in you about your days on the Sunset Strip.
Oh
Your
man,
music, right?
yeah.
We should talk sometime about that. Because, yeah,
the book would just be one night.
that's all you need sometimes. Sometimes that's all you need.
One night.
Yeah.
One night. If I just sat down with somebody and just went, okay, and just went from beginning to end. Yeah, right. There's something there.
We should talk sometime. That could be.
That's
really
not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah.
That's not a bad. I like where you're going with that. But that poster, that was done on paper, blue pencil, pen and ink, and then color. Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing.
I did the whole thing. I did the color. I did the lettering. I did the entire poster. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Yeah.
How long did it take you? Do you remember?
About beginning to end. I was on a deadline. I think about 4 months. And so the first 2 months were a normal schedule where I was working, 8 hours a day. Okay, 8 hours a day. The whole city had to get photographed first. I had to photograph every building. I had to photograph everything, and with a photographer, photographed everything, and then I started drawing it. I laid it out in my mind.
Yeah.
Got everything in, and then because it's done in stages, just like everything else that you go through. The blue line and the pencil work in the beginning, that's got to be dead nuts perfect. Right,
Yeah.
that's it. Because once you lay down the
foundation up wrong,
once
Especially something technical like that.
Yeah, and every letter, my memory says, because of the way that I drew, I didn't make mistakes. Okay, and with that, you can't. A mistake will reproduce.
Yeah.
This isn't the computer world, right? So if you fudge a letter and you try to cover it up, well, this is photographed and turned into halftones, right? It's a 4-color separation. So if you erase something, which you wouldn't, but if you tried it would photograph.
I'm gonna sound like a real old man now. It's like artists don't know how easy they have it now, like compared to those days where work was put together like that. Right now, like one of the programs I use called Clip Studio, and what it can do, one of the tools it has in there is perspective rulers. So how you set up a perspective ruler and you have the horizon line, and then far off in the distance, like sometimes on the other side of a table, you've got a giant ruler or string or something. There are programs that just set that all up for you, and you can just start drawing. Like you don't have to ever study perspective.
You have to study perspective in order to know like what you're doing with the thing, but still like
you're right. But the understanding of it that Michael's talking about, the fundamentals of it, of perspective and perspective drawing, that you don't have to learn it now. You don't have
behind me. This is Jack Kirby, the master of comic book art, right? He had nothing but literally, you could see, and there's like a museum and there's photos of it. It's a wooden desk, a number 2 pencil, a quill ink pen, and a ruler. And he had like a couple of books on his bookshelf. He didn't have the vast internet that we have now of reference for everything. He didn't have any of the tools that we have now. And he's just able to do everything through his own mind. And his imagination is bigger than anybody else's who's currently working.
Yeah, that's right.
And it amazes me that so many artists, they just didn't have the tools that we have now. I'm including myself in this. I'm not saying, oh, you young people have it so easy. Like, I'm in there too. Like, I use all these tools. I use 3D tools and stuff, and they're great to help me move faster and to get things done. But I'm in constant awe of, like, when I look at the old production stuff that you did, or what Jack Kirby was doing, like, all of it by hand, and one mistake means you probably have to start over.
You have to start over. Yeah. No, and I had the privilege, Mario Zamparelli, one of the great artists and graphic designers in the world, in the history of everything, him and Saul Bass, there are a few guys that are at that level, and Mario was one of them. And I became his friend, and he really helped me along. Anyway, taught at Otis Parsons, but he was Howard Hughes's personal designer. So Hughes Aircraft, that's his logo. The on and on and on and on. Mario Zamparelli. Anyway, so I'm at his house, and his daughter Andrea, she was amazing. She goes, he wasn't there. He was in New York. This is in Pasadena. She goes, you want to see his studio? I go, hell yeah, I want to see his studio. Nobody's allowed in there. And I'm like, why are you whispering? So we tiptoe. We're by ourselves in this ginormous house. I go into his studio. And I had, just like what you're saying, I thought I was going to see chaos, right? No, this was stark, right? And I go in there. There are 2 paintings that he's working on easels. There's a drawing table there. There were a few reference books, like you're saying, right? A couple of things, but it was paint, some brushes, right? A couple of palette, big studio, but just stark. And it blew my mind that this creativity comes out of that, where I was expecting the Hollywood version of the artist studio, and that's not what was going on.
And I noticed as I got older, is the less that I use my reference, the better things go. Like, a lot of times references in these tools can be kind of come crutches, or like a rabbit hole that you start going down, especially with reference, like photo reference. And models and stuff. And you're looking for the right model, and you're looking for the right angle and stuff. Whereas if you just kind of just hunker down and start doing it, and you're working on an instinctive level, it might take more sort of psychic energy, but it often works out better. And I think a lot of artists end up doing that. And I bet you've experienced the same thing as a broadcaster. Like, I bet there was a time where you had a bunch of notes in front of you, and you had points that you wanted to hit. And now, like you and Craig Charles, it's like, no, man, you just get up there and you wing it, because if you're thinking too hard, that sometimes gets in the way of stuff, depending on the kind of creator you are, of course.
This is where I enter the confessional, right? So in Jimmy Church 1.0, right, 12 years ago, I would have backup notes for when I thought that I was running out of space, right? I had the go-to stack, right? Oh, I've got this, and just in case. And I had stuff tacked to the walls and just backup material in case, you just run out of gas. And I found out very quickly, and this, I'm talking about serious show prep. I found out when I say a short time, I'm talking about days, right? This wasn't like a year-long process, that I didn't use any of it.
Yeah.
And when you're scrambling at that point to grab something, which I did a couple of times, that delay, and you can feel it. No, and that's it. That's it. That if I showed you my desk right now, what is in front of me? Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's literally a cup of coffee. Okay, you know what's in front of me? Here's the mixing board. Here's my computer interface for the computers over there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 mice, right, to run the computers on this side. That's all that's there. On this side, you ready? I've got a mini flashlight. Gotta have a mini flashlight. I've got my Tesla lighter. Not that I use it because I don't, but it's cool. And I have that here. My phone, right? A guitar pick and a pen. That is everything. That's all that's here. And then I have an emergency notepad just in case somebody says something that I want to write something down. And I'll write a word if I need to do that. But that's it. There's nothing. There's nothing here. Yeah. No. Don't do it that way. Now, in the short time that we have left, I'm going to say this one more time. Everybody, the links are below. Michael Oeming is with us. Somebody said, Jimmy, if you're such a good artist, how come you didn't design your own shirt? Well, that's a good question. And the answer is because I'm not Michael friggin' Oeming. That's why. But there is the new Fade to Black shirts. The links are below. I'm so proud of this. Now, I want to ask you, I want to swing this back to UFOs really quick. 2 questions. All right. Now you've got the imagination, and I know you've thought about this 1,000 times. And your thought on this has to have evolved over the years. It has to. How are they getting here? And so it's a 2-part question. What did you used to think? 30 years ago on Art Bell, right? What were you thinking then? How they were getting here, and what do you think today?
It's a great question because there has been a huge evolution, and I think everybody who studies this field long enough seems to go to the same direction. So, of course, back in the day, I thought it was a sort of a nuts and bolts. They're folding space to, get around time, the speed of light and all that kind of stuff. But like Jacques Vallée started talking about many years ago, and pretty much anybody who studies this field long enough, whether it's, Vallée or Richard Dolan or yourself, you start realizing like there's something else involved that has to do with not nuts and bolts stuff, but some sort of, on a psychic level, there's something consciousness driven about it. Or
like interdimensional, like it's not actually like space that's being traveled.
Yeah.
But it's, right. So it's a dimension travel, so you're not actually traveling the distance.
Yeah, we're not sure that they're coming here as much as they've always been here. They're here right now in some way. I don't have any solid belief in it or whatever, but it just starts to make more sense because when you look at the lore and you read the accounts, and it always seemed to match the time period that it was in. In the 50s, there was literally nuts and bolts. There was literally landing gears and
saucers.
Such. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about sort of like hard light, 3-dimensional. So Red Dwarf reference for you guys. 3-dimensional.
Or the blue triangles.
Yeah. So, I definitely think my best guess for the way the universe works is that it's some sort of consciousness-driven universe. I'm not putting money on it. It's just kind of the best guess that I can get. And that includes, the ship stuff. It just doesn't make sense that it's the old nuts and bolts stuff that we used to think.
And then, what's crazy about that, because you're exactly where I am at with this right now.
Anybody who stays here long enough gets here.
Right. Except, and then we have the Tic Tac. Where, and the way that Fravor described, we're talking about a physical craft, not unlike what Lonnie Zamora and Socorro, right? New Mexico. Yeah. It's a very similar description and size and everything else.
But how weird is it that they're described almost the exact same, except Lonnie Zamora's had landing gears.
Yeah, landing gears.
Because of the time it was done. Same shape, same form. Landing gears, but now not so much. Now it's floating falling out of the sky, you know, like, so it seems to evolve with our consciousness, with our own perceptions of these things.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and where we have seen them evolve now. Okay, but here's the other. This is the crazy part for me. I don't think I've talked about this on the air, but this is how my twisted ass mind works. They used to let me tell you why I think it's evolved. Radar. Okay, radar, satellites. They know where we are in our evolutionary state. They know now that we can detect them. Right? So now they've had to get a workaround on that, because up until 100 years ago, radar wasn't invented, what is successfully used until World War II. Yeah. Okay? That's it. 80 years ago. That's it. There wasn't any radar before then. So ET could come and go as they pleased. Okay? And now we know they're coming. They know we have the deep space ability of peering out into the universe and detecting them. So they now, if they're going to get here, they have to get around that. And I think that
makes a lot of sense.
That's my take. That's where I'm at with it. It's not that it's interdimensional now. No, they need to get here without us following them.
Sure.
Right?
And the world's almost always been consistent in that way of that it reflects the times that we're in. You know, the sightings in the 1800s, literally airships, hot air balloons, weird alien people with fake beards on saying they're from Venus and they're all just going to fly you around. It's the same stories, the same stories as the fairy abductions. And so as we're getting more advanced, so there's a technology which makes you wonder, is this really alien stuff at all? Is this some sort of larger, extension of our mind and consciousness echoing back at us in some sort of physical form or something? I don't know if that makes any sense, but
now, and the other question that I had, ties in with all of this is, how are they communicating? Because the speed of light, radio transmissions, right, and things at the speed of light, that ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work for ET. It's simply not. I was watching this. A great documentary just came out on the James Webb Space Telescope. I think it was on Netflix. Amazing. Go and check that out. But they're bouncing off all of these images in a row, right? 75 billion light years away, 10 billion light years away, 215 light years away. These images that we've all seen, they're just incredible. But I'm looking at these galaxies, these close-ups, and man, the pillars. Oh my God, that is the craziest galaxy. But you're looking at that, and that is full of stars. These clouds, but they're full of stars. How many? Right now, if they are getting here, and it's 215 light years away, just one image, right? You're not waiting 215 years, right, for a call and response. No, there's got to be another one. How are they communicating?
Well, if they already figured out how to travel, against light years, then they probably figured out how to communicate.
Yeah, so I keep going back to the consciousness thing, because consciousness it doesn't have to have boundaries like that,
Mm-hmm. And this is what I mean by I don't think it's about the distance thing. I think they figured out way around it, way around our detection. They figured out a workaround to close that distance, so they don't actually have to travel that distance.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
If they can figure that out, then they can figure out how to communicate within that parameter.
Well, okay. So, and I guess what you're saying, and I like this. In fact, Taki, I've just stolen it. That's it. So if you figured out how to fold space or get these dimensions to connect, right? Your planet on one side of this dimension is on the other side of whatever, right? It's 10 million light years away. But you do this, and now the distance is here, and it's like opening a door and going from one room to the other.
Yeah.
So the communication would be the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It'd be like talking to somebody in the next room.
Yeah.
But that next room, literally, when I say the next room, I'm talking about 10 feet away. That would be the communication, and it would be instantaneous across whatever 1 million light years.
I think
I
it
like
would make
that.
sense even that the communication part might come before the traveling part. To be able to, like, I'm not an expert in quantum mechanics or anything, but the whole spooky action at a distance, and so I think it would be easier to get information across than a physical object. So the information, instant information, they probably come before the actual traveling. So they probably go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
That would, what that would explain a lot is like Bashar, right? Jane Roberts channeling. That would, right?
I think there's something else to explain that, but.
Well, look, angels speaking right from the heavens.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
That's
what's weird too. Is this stuff, like when I was younger, like the Art Bell days, the idea of like this had anything to do with religion or angelic stuff or spiritual stuff. I said, no way. Those are completely different subjects. But now, it's that whole magic starts to seem, or science starts to seem like magic at a certain point. And, maybe the spiritual stuff, like it's not that really far removed from all of it. Maybe it's all the same stuff. I don't know. It's sort of
only time will tell.
Yeah.
Really quick, this just came up in the chat, and it's a great question. I don't know if I've ever asked you guys this. Not on the air, actually. Have you guys ever seen a craft of your own?
No.
We keep trying.
You've tried.
We keep going out, and
we've done the stargazing thing, which I recommend to anybody, because even if you don't see something,
it's just
the
beautiful.
sky is amazing, and you always have a great experience anyway. We keep trying. I almost feel like, again, because of the consciousness thing, I don't know if I'm going to see something, because it seems to be like, I don't know, it's a difficult subject, but like, I don't know that I need to see it, other than I want the affirmation. Outside of that, I don't know that we need to see it on a deeper level. So maybe that's why it's not happening, or it's just the low chances of it. But we have friends who have seen things who we know and trust. You had sightings that were seen with other people. Why would I doubt any of that?
Well, here's I just got back from the UK with Billy Carson, right? That was this week. The week prior to that, Billy came out to California with Elizabeth, and we got a sky watching group together, and we went out to Palm Springs, Joshua Tree specifically, when we went to Giant Rock. And it was a great night. But check this. This is what is nuts. Now, we had a group of 20, 25 people with us, right? Pretty, good sized group. I don't know this as fact, but I'm going to say, aside from Billy and Elizabeth and I, that nobody had a sighting before, right? Okay, so we're standing on top of this hill, and this is what happens, Michael. This is like the craziest thing, and I know it's sad, but we had witnesses, right? But this is what happens. It's low. This orange light is approaching us from my right, which would have been west. And it's low. And it looked like an aircraft with its landing lights on. That's what it looked like to me. It was too bright. It was too low in the sky. And it's coming at us pretty slow, and it's low. I'm going to say a few thousand feet, not high, but it's coming at us. And Billy's standing behind me. He's going, it's an airplane. Nobody's shining. No lasers. We all had lasers. No lasers. And Billy's right. You don't flash lasers at airplanes. So we're all standing there, right? And we're watching this thing, and it's getting closer, and it's getting, I'm like, that ain't a plane. And then I take out, it's so low, we're just watching it with the naked eye, and it's right above. It's just a big orange glowing orb. Look at it with the night vision, no flashing. It's not a plane. And then Billy says, no, hold on. He says this last. So as it's right above us at 12 o'clock, this friggin' thing turns up just like that and goes straight up into the stars and disappears right in front of us, in front of, just like that. Yeah. Not a slow. No, this thing just went right. And Billy goes, I reserve the right to say that was not a plane.
Wow.
And it was nuts. Everything else we saw was great. It was fun. It was cool. But that, how do you unpack that? Neil deGrasse Tyson would not be able to. Michael Shermer, I wish he would have been there, because it's not at that point where you go, no, that was an airplane. Sure. It was could it have been our tech? Sure, absolutely. But it wasn't a plane.
But that would be enough for us. Like we would just love to see something that you just can't really figure out. We've seen satellites, we've seen some moving lights. We had a couple of those experiences where a star seems to just get really bright and disappear. But it happens so quick, you're immediately questioning what you actually saw. But to see something where you have enough time to digest it as it's happening, even that I'd be happy with. Experimental craft or whatever. We've been studying this stuff forever. I would love to see something like that.
Oh yeah. I've been like searching for something since I was a kid. Yeah. And I just want to see something. Yeah. It'd be cool.
Thank you guys so much. What a great night. And again, everybody get your Michael Oeming shirts. And what Michael has agreed to is, after I sign them, send them to Michael. He'll sign them again, and he'll pay for the postage.
Yeah, I'll post my FedEx account.
You guys are the absolute very best. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. And our imaging here at Fade to Black is because of you, and that is something that I'm so proud of. And we've been friends for a very long time. You guys are the absolute best. Now, what's coming up next? Project Monarch?
Bluebook, not Project Bluebook, but just Bluebook, through Dark Horse. And our first graphic novel is coming out. It is about Betty and Barney Hill. That'll be out in October. After that is a conspiracy satire. I'm sorry, that's September. October comes Project Monarch, which is a conspiracy satire involving Stanley Kubrick films and MK Ultra and all kinds of fun stuff.
And you said, you said I have Amazon. And I've got a page, right? You said I got a page in there?
Yeah, you have a whole scene. We'll have to talk about it.
I can't wait.
We'll come back in October and we'll talk about it. We'll do short.
That's what I'm talking about. I'll be holding that up on the screen. Now, everything is at michaeloeming.com, right?
Yes.
Now, we've got the links for everything below. It's over on the website and throughout social media. Michael Oeming and Taki Soma. Thank you guys so much, man. Give you a call tomorrow. Until then, thank you so much. You guys have a great night. Now it's time to go to work. This is when they draw. I'm taking away from drawing time. You guys go to work. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Take care, buddy.
Bye, guys. Michael Oeming, Taki Soma. What a perfect show tonight. You guys, thank you so much. Get your Fade to Black Michael Oeming shirts. They are below. Click on the links and go and get them now. What a perfect show tonight. Love hanging out with those guys. The absolute very best. So talented, but yet so cool. Fade to Black is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, I just have one thing to say. Go back, Lee Tappy.